Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you're watching this, these watches are all in stock and for sale, so reach out to me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions regarding these watches. So we're going to start with an Icon in its latest variant, inspired by the No Time to Die 007 edition. This is the Omega Seamaster Diver 300 meter. So in 2024, we had some revisions to the watch that included the return of an anodized aluminum bezel for a vintage look, a straight bar design with a mesh bracelet, again like the 007 edition, a no-date dial with the Omega Wave, a much more dramatically double-curved cambered sapphire designed to look like a plexi. It's still steel, it's still 42 millimeters in diameter, 14 thick, it's about 49.5 lug to lug, and the watch wears nicely. If you can wear the older 41, and I can because I'm an owner, you're going to find this wears just fine, and I do think it wears best on this bracelet because this bracelet has the best qualities of a strap and a bracelet. More on that in a moment. You can see it's not a small watch, but it's not a huge watch either. What's funny is that we have a much bigger watch, at least in diameter terms, that's going to look about the same on the wrist in just a minute. So when this watch is on the wrist, I'd recommend it for a wrist of 15 centimeters circumference and up. It's not the thickest thing on earth, 14, but it has a little bit of a sheer side. Very comfortable though. The bracelet is fantastic. Of course, it has the appearance of a strap, but it's chainmail, and you can see that it's all matte finished, so most of this watch is either matte or brushed for a low glare look. There are a few polished accents, but you can see that we've got a very traditional sort of series of perforations for a pin buckle. So though it has metal construction, it has the flexibility of a strap, and it kind of works like a strap too. We've got an upgraded clasp on the other side. Now this is a change from the single fold twin trigger clasp we've seen on Omegas for generations now. You can see the external portion has been restyled a little bit, still a twin trigger release. The upgrade comes inside, where in the past it was in theory a little bit difficult to tuck the strap through the system that had two lobes and a pin. This makes it a lot easier, and then you can see this little ceramic spring-loaded pin snap there, allowing it to snap into place, and the steel can't wear down the ceramic pin snap, so this little lock is going to remain crisp over time. But the idea behind that lock is that the bracelet can't pull through the clasp by accident. It's a great looking bracelet. It really does feel tremendous. We've still got a version of the 8800. This is the 8806, so it's the no-date version. Free-sprung, full bridge, anti-magnetic to over 1.5 Tesla, 55-hour power reserve. It has stop seconds, coaxial escapement, lots to love. The helium escape valve for you saturation divers, and then a fully luminescent, super chunky 120 click bezel. Let's do a loom shot here. Now you can see the whole bezel is loomed. This used to be difficult to do with ceramic or anodized aluminum bezels. You used to just see this on bezels that were sapphire capped. Now with technological advancements, this is possible and practical and durable. But you can see how the bezel pearl and the minute hand are both green, the rest is blue, so you can easily read your timing references relative to each other, and also the seconds hand is loomed, which I like because you need to know if your dive timer is actually running underwater where light can come at a premium. So we're going to jump to a bigger diver, at least on paper. So here's the thing. This is the 5015, the traditional 2007 to 2024 standard 50 Fathoms prior to the 5010. Now, a lot of folks are very wedded to this design. They think proportionally it looks a little better, and a lot seems to revolve around the disc at the center of the dial on the 5015, which is not present on the 5010. Now, my response to that would be, well, the 5015 is huge, the 5010 is a lot smaller, it doesn't need the disc because it doesn't have this large undifferentiated dial, but folks wind up believing that the 5015 actually looks better precisely because of the disc, and they wish it were on the 5010. Well, I'm not going to say one is right and one is wrong. I'm just going to say it is a very handsome watch, and I've long regarded it as the Cadillac of divers. So it's got a lot to love. So this model came out in 2007. It's still one of the best in the world. We have a bracelet fixed by screws and bars, no spring bars here, no chance of a disaster due to a worn spring bar. We've got a 120 click bezel that goes in a different direction than Omega. It's very refined and subtle. Still 120 clicks, so you get the same precision, but a very different feel. Now, where it has an advantage is it has this sharper knurling around the edge of the bezel. This bezel is easier to use with wet, sweaty, or gloved hands than this more flat, scalloped knurling on the Omega. But it's this cambered sapphire on the bezel, a feature that first surfaced, pun intended, on the 2003 50th anniversary 50 Fathoms, and it's been a styling cue that's been retained ever since. It's not flat like IWC or Breguet or Grand Seiko. This is a cambered sapphire, just like the sapphire over the dial. It's got a pronounced curvature to it, and one of the best features here is the sapphire protects a fully luminescent bezel, and you can see how easy it is to read this bezel. A lot of folks have an opinion about the date between 4 and 5 on this dial, but I think the Lume shot really reveals what the designers were thinking. Have a fully intact dial without cropping away a numeral or an index in favor of a date that's not going to be lume, so you have a more luminescent, easier, and more intuitive dial to read in the dark. So I'm a big fan of all this. I just love it. See, circular supernova. Now it is a 5-day power reserve, 3 mainspring barrels, 6-position adjustment, free sprung for shock resistant, silicon anti-magnetic hacking with a quick set date, and this one on the rarely seen X71 bracelet, which has incredible structural integrity. You can see how the parts sort of interlink like socket and plug, and that's a really great way to build a bracelet for security. And the watch feels great. It's not as big as it sounds. It's actually only 50.8 lug to lug, so even though it's a 45, it only measures about, I'd say, 1.3 millimeters larger lug to lug than the Omega. Now, there are solid end links to the bracelet, which extend that a bit, but you can see it's by no means too large for a 16 centimeter circumference wrist. In fact, I find this quite comfortable and solid. It feels like an instrument. It's redoubtable. Okay, from Swatch Group to Richemont, we're going to take a look at something that is surprisingly water resistant for its class. At 150 meters water resistant, the Overseas Self-Winding Generation 3 really flies in the face of the conventions established by AP and Patek. If you want a watch from those companies with more water resistance than 150 meters, which is what this has, well, you got to go for an offshore diver. So 150 meters water resistant, 25,000 ampere per meter anti-magnetic, 41 in diameter. It's only about 10.8 millimeters thick. It's a nice, easy fit, and we don't see this combination too often. Silver dial, rose gold case, and a brown rubber strap. Of course, there's a quick release system that makes it very easy to remove this, replace it with a leather strap or even a bracelet. One of the advantages is it becomes easier to see the case back. Manufacturer caliber 5100, twin barrels, 60-hour reserve, 4 hertz beat rate, 22-karat rotor, many hand finishing, 5-position adjustment, and 37 pivot jewels. It's also a large movement that nicely fills this case back. Geneva hallmark on movement, Geneva hallmark on case. It applies to both ceramic bearings, 4 different finishings on this hand-decorated rotor, and then you can see we've got a clasp that also has a quick release mechanism for easy detachment from the watch. Very easy, very simple to do this. You might be wondering, how does that clasp work? Well, the way the clasp works is you've got this little pivot here, and then it's just as simple as taking it off. So if you want to put this on a different Vacheron strap, it's very simple. You just socket the two together to reassemble it. Just like that. Very easy to do. Now the watch wears well, primarily because on the strap you've got the most flexibility. I find with the bracelet, the leather, and the rubber, I have a clear favorite due to the flexibility of the rubber, which makes for better small wrist fit, makes this watch viable on a wrist of 14 to 15 centimeters circumference, and it is quite flat, so it'll easily fit underneath a cuff. Every Vacheron is at heart also a dress watch in the same sense that every Marine, regardless of his MOS, is at heart a rifleman. No shortage of lume, we got plenty of that. It's a well-rounded high horology sports watch in the modern paradigm. Elsewhere in Richemont, we talk about dress watches and complications. So you can see what we've got right here is a Lange und Sohne triple split. So we'll reset everything. This is a watch that came out in 2018 as a white gold edition with an anthracite dial, but you're looking at the 2021 100-piece blue dial rose gold version, so 100 pieces, 567 pieces on this caliber L1321 movement, 46 jewels, an incredible amount of bridges, levers, clutches, column wheels, pivots, detents, jumpers, 2 different column wheels, and then of course you have, we'll fire things up again, get everything rolling at center, and then you can see that we have 2 different column wheels, one for the split-second mechanism, and then right here the primary column wheel. So in addition to being a split, it also has flyback chronograph capability, so reset and restart without first stopping. A lot to love here. Manual wind, 55-hour power reserve, flyback chronograph, power reserve indicator, a little bit of lume. Yeah, actually, let's move these. You can see that it has stop seconds as well, but it does have a little bit of lume. The dial is made of sterling silver, but galvanized blue. Now, the way the split works is you can split 2 events up to 12 hours in duration. So we have split seconds, and we have 2 superimposed splitting minute hands, just like on the double split from 2004. But this also has 2 superimposed hour hands. So you can time 2 intervals, let's say race cars, and one of them finishes the event in, say, 10 hours, 37 minutes, and 16 seconds. And the other takes 11 hours, 5 minutes, and 37 seconds. And this watch will be able to discern both of those independently. So it is a very cool system. Also uses a decoupler system to prevent the chronograph from dragging and slowing down the watch when the split is frozen. The other thing that's important to note is just how beautiful it is. There are pieces here that you can't quite see or can't see in full that are intricately decorated, the ultimate in integrity. Bridges and plates are German silver, nickel, copper, zinc, the copper giving them that champagne hue. The steel parts are all silver white. You can see they are satinated and beveled on their side. The German silver bridges are striped across their top and then beveled on their edges. We have both fired blue screws and polished screws. Here, polished screws are used for adjustment and timing corrections, whereas the blue screws are used to fix things. We also have golden chaton cups for some of the jewels, and not the way Lange pocket watches would have been made in the 19th and early 20th century. We have a free-sprung balance at 3 Hertz with an overcoil, 5-position adjust, and then we have a free hand-engraved balance cock that you can just barely see, but it's there. That's the nice thing about this watch. Integrity. Things you can barely see are laboriously decorated. The buckle is Lange's most expensive. Not just a folding clasp, which is rare enough on Lange watches. This one features trigger release, so it can't pop open accidentally. This is used on the biggest pieces, the Lange 31, Grand Complication, Triple Split, stuff like that. And so not only does it have triggers, but a little bit like the Omega clasp we saw in the beginning, we have this little locking system. So let me pop this open so you can see it better. You feed the strap through, notch it on the pin, then you lock it in place so that the strap can't pull through the buckle by accident. It costs 4 figures in euros to buy this buckle as an accessory, as a standalone. So you got to keep in mind just how much this watch offers as a unit. Deeply impressive. It is big. It's 43.2 millimeters, and it's 51.5 lug to lug. I measure it 16.1 thick. I would say you probably need a wrist a little bit larger than mine to wear this well, though the further out I zoom, the better it looks proportionally. I think you could wear this on a wrist my size, 16 centimeters, but if you have a wrist that's bigger, then game on. There will be no question whatsoever. Bringing on something that is far more utilitarian, though also a chronograph. Here's a 2024 Hodinkee limited edition of 350 pieces. So this is from Porsche Design. It is the Chronograph 1 by Hodinkee, and the Porsche Design Hodinkee Chronograph 1 echoes the original Chronograph 1 from Porsche Design from 1972. That one was built by Orfina. Today, Porsche, out of Solothurn, has its own Swiss manufacturer. In the past, it's worked with Orfina initially, then Porsche Design worked with IWC, then they worked with Eterna for a couple of years, and then finally, after a 2012 split with Eterna, they decided they were just going to set up their own factory, and so they do make their own watches today. So we have a sort of nitrided titanium on top of, or I should say titanium carbide is what we have, on top of a titanium base. So a super hard black coating on a titanium core. And then every link of this bracelet is removable for fine tuning. Really high-grade clasp. You can see Porsche Design's logo there. And then we have a slider in here. You can see how there's a push button. Let's try to get some light there. But a push button and an incremental sizing slider inside the clasp. Lots to love. It's 100 meters, water resistant. The watch has a mile calibrated tachometric scale instead of the base 1000 of the original, to remind you that Hodinkee is an American watch blog. And then we've got a bilingual calendar system here, so we have both English and Japanese, because Japan was the location of Hodinkee's first regional bureau extension. Fotina, because it's Hodinkee and they couldn't help themselves, but at least they're discreet about the branding. The H here is the only Hodinkee signature. The original versions of this that would have been made for the military would have said 3H, so for tritium. This is a Luminova watch, though, make no mistake. You can see there is no shortage of lume. We could take a quick look at how some of these functions work. We've got a screw-down crown. Porsche design, founded by F.A. Porsche, the designer of the Porsche 904, the 911, that's easily the most famous, and then the 695 prototype. But the interesting thing is, unlike his ancestors, including his immediate predecessors who were engineers, he decided to become a designer. But this is why you never give up on anything in life, kids. He was thrown out of design school in Stuttgart because he was judged to have no potential or talent. Again, if you stick to it, sometimes you get the last laugh. So the watch is powered by a 7750 internally. You can see the design on the reverse side. And then there's a quick release system for the bracelet that preserves a conventional junction. So it's a 22 millimeter spacing as I measure it. If you pop the bracelet off, you can stick in a standard 22 millimeter strap with a spring bar. The quick release is in the bracelet, not built into the case, so you're not locked into a proprietary system. It's a nice, easy watch to wear at 40.8 millimeters in diameter. Nice and comfortable, no issues there, although it is fairly broad with the bracelet. But I'm going to recommend this for 14 centimeter circumference wrists and up. I actually think you could wear it on a smaller wrist if you put it on a strap. Good looking watch all around, a nice instrument aesthetic, and reportedly a Butzi Porsche designed the Chronograph 1, which was made by Orfina in '72, to resemble the video gauges in Porsche 911s. And so you have a little bit of that automotive gauge aesthetic here. A really cool watch that offers a lot of value and fun. And it is a 350-piece limited edition. It's also chapter 1 of what's said to be a trilogy of themed watches coming out. So perhaps this will be the anchor of your collection of all three. Okay, so Porsche Design is actually based out of Austria, and they manufacture in Solothurn in Switzerland. But if you want a true German watch, this is a German watch. Launched in 2012, the Glashütte Original Senator Observer, designed to echo observation watches, or a combination of watches used by aviators and then earlier marine chronometers that would have been used to navigate ships. And so those would have been built by some of the great Glashütte watchmakers like Julius Assmann or Roald Amundsen. And of course, this right here does look like some of those old marine chronometers. Obviously, the date is a modern Liberty take, and it's a nice thin watch in steel at 44 millimeters in diameter. It's only 12 millimeters thick, so it wears nice. It's got a 3-layer granular lacquer dial, so you can see it has a pronounced texture. It takes 3 different types of applique lacquer to make that happen. Now, the watch does have a power reserve indicator on the back. We have caliber 100-14, power reserve indicator. And then on the reverse, darn good-looking movement. So twin barrels with a 4 hertz beat rate, stop seconds. There is a little pusher adjuster on the side to correct the 2 flush date discs. And 5 position adjusted, 55-hour power reserve. You can see the use of a mirror polished swan's neck fine adjustment mechanism. And it has a lot of the qualities of a free sprung balance because of the set screw that keeps it fixed. A really good looking movement. My favorite feature is this lovely solarized reduction wheel. It's got a full clasp. It is a steel watch, so on that basis it's everyday friendly. Fairly comfortable. Throw it on the wrist. It's a big watch. Make no mistake, it's a big watch, but not so huge that I couldn't or wouldn't wear it. Just as important, it's a versatile watch. Being super flat, it will fit underneath a dress cuff. And I always like to finish up with a firecracker, and I've definitely got one today in yellow gold, 39 millimeters by 47.4 lug to lug and 10.5 thick. This is the Breguet Classique Tourbillon. So a watch that is a tourbillon with a power reserve, a solid gold dial, and look how many guilloche lathe cuts have been made on this solid gold dial disc. We have a hand-rolled case, so cold rolled and then finished in a jig to create this coining. The lugs welded on and then hand filed to create that super sharp break between lug and case. You could see that the strap held to the lugs using screws and bars. I always love to see that because it means it's secure, more so than spring bars. And we have another screw and a bar fixing the folding clasp to the strap so it's secure on both ends. Friction fit snap shut clasp in matching yellow gold. A beautiful execution. You can see we've got a power reserve indicator, and then we've got a 24-hour scale. And what this is a sort of AM/PM indicator for the primary dial. So you can see now, watch me push the crown back in. You see now it's roughly halfway between 1 or 0 and 24. So you know you're looking at 12 noon there. Now when I disengage the system to set the time, the hand jumps to 24. And then when I push the crown back in, it returns to its correct scope. Also important, you can see that not only is this a solid gold lathe cut dial, but we have these lovely pantograph etched and hand-signed Breguet secret signatures. The hands are steel and fired. We have a lovely free-sprung 1-minute tourbillon with a Breguet overcoil, naturally. Its components are beautifully decorated, but it is the case back that will take your breath away. Now you can see on this case back, caliber 560, Lamagna based, entirely freehand engraved, mirror beveled with polished screws. It's got a 55-hour power reserve. It is a 6-position adjustment, which is one more than the chronometer standard. Utterly gorgeous and spellbinding, and an easy watch to wear as it's not big, it's not broad, and it's not thick. A lovely watch. It's got a lot of presence. And in yellow gold, it does fit the character of the Breguet brand. If you're looking for a dress complication par excellence, very difficult to top this 3657BA. And it's a watch with a full boxed set, so reach out to Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning any of these watches.